The Sadducees came to Jesus, those who believed there was no resurrection. And they asked this question. Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife but no children, the man must marry the widow and have children for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first married a woman and died without children. The second married and died without children. Then the third and the same, all the way through the 7 brothers, none of whom had children. And finally the woman died also. Now, at the resurrection, whose wife will she be, since the 7 were married to her? And Jesus replied, the people of this age marry and are given in marriage. Those who are considered worthy of taking part in that age and in that resurrection from the dead will neither marry nor be given in marriage, and they can no longer die, for they are like angels. They are God's children, since they are children of the resurrection. But in the account of the bush, even Moses showed that the dead rise, for he calls God the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. The word from the Lord in the house of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
I missed one significant announcement this morning. Following this service, we will pack Operation Christmas Child boxes. Not that it's going to be a big deal or anything, but we're only going to do 300 and something. So, if you can hang around and help, have a cup of coffee and go into the back room, Ladora and Lisa have got it all set up so it won't take us long to get the job done, and they'll be delivered and our project will be completed. So, but do be part of it. It's an amazing thing. The number of children who receive boxes who have never in their life gotten a gift, and suddenly someone comes along with a gift from Jesus Christ, because that's where these gifts come from. Samaritan's Purse sponsors it. They do the delivery. There will be 13 million boxes delivered this year. It's a long operation. It goes for several months before it's done. So just hang around, be part of it. It'll be a fun time. I preach from the Common Lectionary. That means the readings that I use are predetermined. I don't think them up all by myself. It's kind of like we get whatever the book gives us. It's not like when I pick the wrong hymns. So, but this one is one that it's a 3-year cycle. So we get the same gospel every 3 years, which means I've now preached on it probably 8 times. Most of the time I've ignored it totally, because I think it's a tough concept to listen to what was said. But what was actually talked about here was the same kind of thing that was given through Haggai, the minor prophet who was told by God to tell people, live your lives. Don't get caught up in details. Don't be fussing about details. Live your lives. And that's what this message is about. It's not about a woman with 7 husbands. The only advantage of that is that she never had to get a new mother-in-law. But it's not about that. It's about the fact that some people are so busy looking for things to take apart that they never get a chance to look at the whole picture. They're so busy fussing about details, nitpicking about incidentals, that they don't let the blessings of God overwhelm them like they can. They want to be just so fine-tuned about everything. And when you realize that there are 900 English translations of the New Testament and the Bible, you realize there are some variations that are going to be in there simply because of the way some people see the story and some people use the language from a long time ago. because the words that were used when they translated from Latin to English, which got John Wycliffe in a lot of trouble, because he was the first one to bring the English language Bible before people. Before that, only the priests could read it because they're the only ones who spoke Latin. But John thought people ought to be able to have the Bible. So he printed it in English so that people, they hated him so much that after he died, they dug up his bones and burned him at the stake. We religious people are relentless. And that's really what Jesus is talking about when he talks about with these Sadducees who wanted to trick him, who wanted to get him to say something that was so controversial that they could pin him down and he would be absolutely wrong about something. And so they cite a minor point in the Mosaic Law, remembering that the Mosaic Law was 10 commandments that became 700 pages of law when the people got a hold of it. It isn't about a woman being married to 7 brothers. It's about understanding that God's grace is through all things. And if we trust in the resurrection, if we honestly believe that we will someday be one with Christ through eternity, then we don't have to worry about petty details like this. That's what his story with them is. That's the only thing that's important about that conversation, is that we are children of God and we are loved by him. When we love him back, we joyously accept the rewards for that communal love that we have with him. So it's not a matter of being able to cipher out. I've got 7 books on heaven. Some of them written by people who died briefly and came back. I've not got a single book by somebody who spent a month there. And if you want to know what heaven is really like, I got 7 books that'll tell you 7 different things about what heaven is really like. So I'm no wiser, having read all those books, than anyone who's never looked at one. I live on the promise that Jesus said, whatever it is, it'll be better than anything you've ever known. So why can't I look at that as my promise, and why can't I then translate that promise into a call to be active with him, to love with him, to share with him all of my love that I have for those around me? Oh, I got some people in my life I don't particularly like. And I pray that he'll let me love them. Some days he doesn't do a very good job. But the next day I realize that they're his. They deserve to be loved. Just as this woman, born without children, had no support except for the 7 brothers. And they were caused to support her. They were forced to support her. There is no force, there is no cause, there is no reason for Christ to love us. There is only his desire to love us. So we don't need to worry about the details of these kinds of things any more than we need to worry about the details of what's going on in... Oh, I guess we should worry about what's going on in Congress, shouldn't we? There aren't very many details there that... I was going to say the Methodist Church, but... and I will say that. What's happening is going to happen. But it will never, ever separate Christ from your love. Never, ever separate you from the love of Christ. They can make all the rules they want. But the one thing they cannot do is they cannot legislate a separation between you and the Christ who loves you. Any more than the Mosaic Law could separate this woman from anyone else in her category. But we can pick things apart. You can complain about the hymns I pick, that's okay. I can complain about the common lectionary that gives me a gospel I don't even want to talk about. except there is a message. There is always a message in every time that we sit down and take a look at what it is we need to talk about. It isn't about seven brothers marrying one bride. That would have made a better movie than Seven Brides for Brother. It isn't about that. It's about understanding that what happens here only affects what happens there if we're involved in it. If we're not involved with Christ, there is no there. There is only here. If we're not loved by Christ, there is no afterlife. There's only this life. So we need to be aware of the fact that we are children of God. We are able to love, and we need to put that ability into effect and into use so that no one needs not know about Christ and the love he has for us. Oh, there's a lot of stories in the Bible that when you just read the story don't make much sense until you look at the underlying message that Christ has for us. In every message, in all the messages, in all the words, there is the commonality of his love for us. As he healed the sick, as he healed the lame and the blind and the deaf, and as he talked to those who were totally healthy, he always talked with a voice of love. He expects us to be able to hear that voice, to repeat that voice, to echo that love as we demonstrate it to those around us. The goal of this church, the aim of this church, is to show the face of Christ to those around who know him not. And we can only do that if we do it with love. Your choice. You can be part of that, or you can just be part of this. And this is kind of disappointing. Love in the name of Christ. Amen. Don't sweat the details. Don't sweat the little things. No, don't sweat the big things. There are none. Just know that he loves you. Know that you can love others in his name. And that should bring you to his peace. The peace that passes all understanding. The peace of being one with him who gave all that you might live forever. Amen.